G'day all and welcome back to Freo Faithful. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are here to talk football and most importantly dissect whatever the hell we just saw on Saturday. A nightmare start to our 2025 campaign. There were some positives in there, mostly negative. We're here to dissect it all with Drews. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not too great after that performance from the Dockers on Saturday. You said there's positives in there, but there wasn't too many for me. But yeah, we're going to unpack it. Where do we even start?
Yeah, it's a hard place to start. I mean, the score 23,947 to Fremantle's 10,969. That is the second highest score we've ever conceded under JL. Following, I think we conceded 149 to the Bulldogs last year, straight after the bye. For that to come first up, we got a new backline coach this year as well, and the fact that's his first conceding score is it's not a good sign of the things to come. We've got a few, not easier, but a few more winnable games in the next few weeks. We did say last week that it wouldn't be panic stations if we lost this game. The margin, not ideal, but yeah, what do you sort of make of the game as a whole?
The game as a whole, I just think we are so past this bullshit, don't show up, don't bring effort now. Like, that was such a immature, inexperienced performance. Like, we want to see improvement and signs that this list has learnt from our mistakes in the past few years under JL. But that performance on Saturday reminded me of when we went down to Cardinia Park under Ross Lyon and Matt Taberner was in our forward line and we hardly even fired a shot. And it's like, how have we spent a whole preseason preparing for round one and we don't even fire a shot? To me, it didn't even look like Geelong got out of second gear. Like, obviously, they put it on us when they smelt blood, but it just, all Geelong did on the day for me was execute fundamentals better, which is pressure, effort, and skill execution. That was it. Like, it wasn't a good game of football. And even Geelong fans are saying, like, that was a weird game. So, yeah, that's sort of how I summarize it overall. But obviously, we're going to break it down in depth.
Yeah, I mean, what you said about the fundamentals, like, it was as simple as they brought forward half pressure, they locked it inside their forward 50, they found the shallow entries. I mean, you look at our one goal we kicked in the first quarter, it was Andy Brayshaw on the transition. Like, it's not necessarily a sustainable sort of goal you want to be kicking, play after play. So, yeah, it was quite annoying. We'll move on to some individual players because we did have, look, I said the positives, they mainly came from a few individuals. What do you see there?
Well, I thought that our key backs actually played pretty well. I know you weren't a fan of Brennan Cox's game, but I thought Alex Pearce and Brennan Cox were doing their best with the amount of entries that were coming through. They were killing the contest, and then our small defenders just weren't doing anything to mop it up. So I thought those two were pretty solid. I thought Brayshaw, Sarong, and O'Driscoll had pretty good games. And then the best on ground for us was obviously Murphy Reid. If it wasn't for Murphy Reid playing, we probably would have lost that game by 100 points because he single-handedly brought us back into it with that third quarter. So yeah, Murphy Reid was obviously the star of the show.
Oh yeah, Murphy Reid in that third quarter. We'll get onto him a bit later, but in terms of the individuals, I thought Matt Johnson had a really strong start to the game. Again, as you said, I thought Noddy had a really good game. Just one thing that I've always noticed about him, he is so one-footed, it's not even funny. He tried to kick with his right one time, and it just went high in the air, about 1 meter forward. So if he can get a right foot into his game, he'll be double the player. That's how much of an impact it would make. I thought Corey Wagner he got a lot of the ball on halfback, and I think if it wasn't for him, again, the ball would have flooded in their 50 way more. His disposal efficiency wasn't necessarily up to scratch. For 24 disposals for a halfback to gain that much of the ball, I really wanted a bit more from what I saw. I thought Jager did a good job in the middle. I thought, composed. We didn't have many good ball users on the day, and I thought Jager was probably a rare spark in that area. But yeah, as you said, Murphy Reid's the man we've got to talk about. I mean, what a weird game. I was talking to some Geelong fans after, and we were trying to figure out, how there was a game where we got it to within 20 points. It was a 21-point ball game with 14 minutes to play, and we lost by 80 points. Murphy Reid not on the field. That doesn't happen. It was honestly one of the most bizarre games of footy I've ever seen. And if it wasn't for Murphy Reid, as you said, it would have gone out to triple figures. It would have become even more ugly than it already was. And yeah, overall, what a gem we've got in our hands. Do you think he cops a rising star on Monday and Tuesday?
Well, the thing was, he had that third quarter, and he put himself in the right positions throughout the game, and he looked slick with his ball use. But outside of that, I think he sort of just struggled as much as the rest of the Dockers team is. Like, obviously, they can give the rising star nom to him. He probably had the best moment of the round out of any rising star. But I think, Lawler at Richmond probably had a better all-round game with like the 22 touches, the 2 goals, and a massive upset win. But I'd love to see Murph get the rising star nod for sure.
It would be beautiful. We've had about 4 or 5 questions come through about Murphy on our Instagram at Freo.Faithful. We'll be asking, every Sunday for some questions for the pod, so make sure you go follow us over there. All right, we've had a question come through here on the Instagram from John. Thoughts on Murphy Reid's game as a whole, but most importantly his position, because he played quite a deep forward role for most of it, especially when JL recognised he was hot. He chucked him at full forward at the stage. And we obviously, I think he went in about 2 CBAs throughout that game. And he said during the week he wanted to play more of a defensive midfield role. And in those 2 CBAs, we won both clearances in a day where clearances were hard to win. So do you think Murphy, despite those 4 goals, could potentially maybe take up a bit more midfield responsibility in the next few weeks?
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see how he goes with more centre bounce time. But I think he's locked in that forward spot. Like, he just looked so well positioned every time the ball went in there. And his forward craft is really good as well. When he was hitting up for those leads for the set shots, just great movement off the ball. So he's got that in the kit bag, which is super exciting. But yeah, I would like to see him attend more centre bounces for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go into the midfield as well. But yeah, that midfield mix was, I don't know, there was something that just wasn't right with it.
Yeah, the midfield was very, very odd. Jake sent through a question asking about the odd resting of Caleb Serong in the deep forward line for so much of the game. Like that third quarter where he was having bulk CBAs, Jackson was knocking it down his throat, centre bounce after centre bounce, and we were just getting that run on. And for some reason, for a large, other portion of that game, he was just resting so far deep in the forward line. He is such a good in and under player, and it was a game where we were struggling so much to win the ball, not just on the outside, but on the inside, where Caleb Serong excels. I said in the preview that the runners of Geelong, Max Holmes and Bailey Smith, were going to absolutely kill us if we put no defensive pressure on them. And Caleb Serong, I definitely could have countered some of that run on. And for some reason, he was so deep in the forward line for so much of the game. That midfield mix today, mate, was so odd.
Yeah. And there was moments of the game where it was just like you said, he was just in the forward line for way too long. Like, obviously, they're going to have to adjust. Like, it's a rotation, so he's obviously going to go straight into the middle, then rotate forward, and then come off or something like that. But yeah, it wasn't right. He spent way too much time in the forward line. And as our deepest forward as well, like, Jai Amos didn't impact all day. And I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, although I have. But, like, surely you want Serong closer to the ball. You don't want him one out in the goal square. That's exactly where you want Jai Amos and Josh Tracy. It's like, why is Serong our deepest lying forward? Weird one. And yeah, sort of got a tangent here a little bit, but like some of the decision making on the day from our coaches wasn't good enough. Heath Chapman starting as a sub was baffling to me. Like, Heath Chapman to me is one of our most important players. Like, he provides something in the back half that we don't have. His ability to rebound, to intercept, to get the ball moving our way fast and providing a counter-attack, which we hardly did all day. We missed that. And if our midfield mix isn't looking good, and we've heard all this talk over Heath Chapman's career about putting him in the middle, why haven't we seen that over the offseason? Like, why haven't we seen Heath Chapman on a wing or playing as an inside midfielder? Because I think he could play that role. And the fact that he played as a sub behind Carl Warner, Josh Draper, and Corey Wagner today, like that took me by a massive surprise.
Yeah, Alex sent through a question saying, where should Chappie be lining up? Why is he not in the midfield? I mean, he would provide a much different dynamic to what we've already got rolling through there. And you look at sort of like our main 5 CBA guys on Saturday. Jager O'Meara, Caleb Serong, Matt Johnson, Andy Brayshaw, and then you had Nathan O'Driscoll roll through there. I wouldn't say any of those individually had a bad game of football, but you've got to put it down to the coaches. Like, I remember that Sydney game last year. We single-handedly won that midfield because of Nat Fyfe's defensive role on Isaac Heaney. We had nobody playing a defensive midfield role on Saturday. You've got Max Holmes and Bailey Smith, some of the hardest running, hardest working midfielders, just running riot around us. I've got no idea why we did not have a presence there. And you can't throw the no Hayden Young excuse because he, often plays that role. We just had nobody even step up to the plate to attempt to play that role. We just got the mix completely wrong.
Yeah, it's far from our best 22 this. Like, we sort of went all off-season pretty much injury-free with a couple of injuries, Darcy and Hayden Young had a bit of a pull. But, like, now that we've actually got close to the season, I was looking at the best 22 as it came out, and I was like, this is actually... Like, we miss Shea Bolton, even though we haven't even seen him play. But, yeah, it just looked like we'd stepped back into 2023, and we can't be having that. I'm happy that it was round one because this one just needs to be parked, left under the rug, and forgotten because it was just an absolute shambles, so far from our best.
Yeah, I mean, moving back onto Heath Chapman quickly, we were just debating where we should play him, whether that's a midfield spot, whether even the wing could, vacant a spot for him. But I really think he could have played as a third tall on Saturday. I mean, we went so tall. I can't remember if Josh Draper, Brennan Cox, and Alex Pearce have ever played a game of AFL football together. We were so giant. Like, Josh Draper has the ability to play small and whatever, but I think you're going to have to sacrifice one of Cox and Draper and to actually, provide a defensive mix that can complement opposition forward lines. Because we had Ollie Henry to deal with. He kicked 3 goals on our head. We had nobody that was a straight, sort of defensive matchup for him. Heath Chapman would have been perfect for Ollie Henry. We failed to take Jeremy Cameron out the game. We failed to take Shannon Neal out the game. Their key backs absolutely killed us. And yet again, you can't really blame a Pearce, Cox, or Draper individually for that. It goes down to the coaches and our backline coach for setting us up in that way. I just thought it was really odd.
Yeah. Well, thinking of where Chapman's best position is, I can tell you one thing right now. It's not as a fucking sub. Like,
Baffling.
He's not best 22. For me, Heath Chapman is a best 10 player at our club. Like, that was the most baffling thing. Like, I was like, who's going to start as sub? Is it going to be Draper? Is it going to be Murphy Reid? Is it going to be, I don't know, Corey Wagner? Heath Chapman! What are you talking about? Like, fuck. Like, what can we compare that to? We're all Freo fans here, but it's like, it's
like putting Bailey Dale as sub for the Bulldogs.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, Bevo has done that.
I know, which is ridiculous. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Have your best players on the field from the get-go. Yeah, we can move on from that Chapman conversation because we don't have the answer to the question.
Yeah, indeed. We'll move to the other end of the ground in the forward line and a bit of talk with the Ruck situation as well. The three names being Liam Reedy, Josh Tracy, and Patrick Voss, who all coincide within our fan base for some great discussion. Alex sent through a question saying, surely Vossi can pinch it in the ruck instead of JT, because I think that main sort of worry for JL, if we go with the Voss-Jackson structure, is we lose JT in the forward line for a lot because we're pinch hitting, he's pinch hitting in the ruck and sort of, losing our structure for a portion of the game. Surely Patrick Voss, who is the exact same size, potentially bigger, can pinch hit in the ruck and we won't lose as much of that structure as JL is probably thinking.
Well, the frustrating thing was, as soon as we started losing the battle around the ground with the rucks, we just moved Reedy into the forward line, who isn't a forward, and he was just a witch's hat down there. Like, I don't want to sound too negative, but like, what's the point of playing Liam Reedy if he's not going to play number one ruck all day? You might as well play Vossi. And I went to the D's and GWS game today and saw Callum Brown do a massive job on Max Gawn and Aiden Johnson, their second ruck. So whether this two ruck combo is going to look different when Sean Darcy's back, because he's going to be able to provide more than a Liam Reedy will, I'm not sure, but yeah, I didn't like that look of Reedy, Jackson, Tracy, Amos. Like, it didn't work.
Yeah, it made no sense whatsoever. We have been talking a bit about JL. We'll quickly finish up on him because there has been a couple questions about him. Frederick said, do we need to, blame JL for sort of our constant lack of in-game consistency? Because it's been a problem for well over a year now, and it's been one of the main problems that I was voicing on the weekend on my watch-along. our in-game consistency is so baffling. Like that third quarter our football was being shown at our absolute best in patches there. And you go back, you go into the huddle at 3/4 time, come out for the fourth quarter, and it's just back to square one. It's so weird how inconsistent we are in game.
I don't know how much of that you can put on JL. I think that's like JL did say in the post-game press conference, like I obviously didn't prepare the players as best as he could, which is a very honest answer. And I think he has been better in front of the media, JL. He's showing a bit more transparency. I sort of see that more on the leaders. Like JL can only do so much to set you up tactically, but if you can't bring effort and tackling and pressure, like what can JL do from the coach's box? Like if you're going to be a good side in the AFL, you have to bring those fundamental things. Like he always talks about contest, which we got dominated in, team defense, which was non-existent. So I don't think you can really blame JL. I think it's more on the leaders of the club that are out there, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd probably agree. I mean, today, we're filming this on a Sunday, and today I watched Gold Coast, Adelaide, Melbourne, and GWS all bring immense pressure. And, 3 of those 4 sides won the game, Melbourne coming very close to winning. And they all sort of just showed what contenders should look like. The pressure from some of our small forwards was really questionable. As soon as Sam Switkowski went down, who is our catalyst, our live wire, down in the forward half, it felt really non-existent. I think, again, we've mentioned it time and time again, Michael Frederick popped up with 2 goals yet again, but it's just the forward pressure. He really needs to add to his game if he's not going to be sort of I'm not going to call him a Verge 22 player, but I really question his hot and cold tendencies sometimes. And I think we really just need to look for another answer in the forward line with our pressure and our toughness. Because again, JL mentioned it post-game, our toughness wasn't up to scratch. And when you watch some of the other contenders and you compare it to our game on Saturday, it sort of just, it gives us a real wake-up call on how far away we really are.
Tell you who would be handy is Shea Bolton and Cozzy Pickett.
Can we skip to next year?
Yeah, let's get to that part. But I think what I sort of realised watching the game and, as the football season unfolds and covering the games on True Footy and stuff like that, the most important players to win games of football are players that do damage in the front half. And that's those half forwards that hit up, which were non-existent for Freo on Saturday against the Cats. Like, those high half forwards are guys like Switter or like a Lockie Schultz for us, like who play that pressure role. But yeah, we didn't have any of that. I think, maybe went in too tall in the forward line. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, Shea Bolton and Hayden Young need to get back into this team ASAP if we're going to contend, because as good as Brayshaw and Sarong are, and I think Brayshaw did do well to break through the lines, and Johnson did to his credit as well. But they're contest beasts, and they're great at that in and under stuff, but you need your best players in that sort of centre half forward area. And that's why I'm questioning, like, why is Sarong so deep? Like, obviously he's resting there, but if he's going to rest forward, I'd like to see him a little bit higher up the ground. Frederick was super frustrating, and it's the same frustrations that I've had with him for a while. Like, when we're attacking and when we're on the ball, he's exciting, great. He's hard to catch. He's a great kick of the footy as well. But it's almost like when we don't have the ball, because he's so explosive, he can't like shorten his steps and just I don't know, slow up and get in the face and lay a tackle front on. It's like all the opponent has to do is a little sidestep, and Frederick's already gone 3 meters past him because he's so rapid. Like I don't actually know how you fix that. Again, forwards like Tracy cracked in, but this forward line looked like they weren't hitting up at the ball. There was no movement in our forward line. There was nothing to kick to. Like watching it the game, I was in the 2nd or 3rd tier. And I was looking at our forward line, like there's no movement. We were pretty much just holding the ball for as long as we can and then kicking it to the same contest that Jackson and Tracy were trying to mark the same ball for. Like there was no little short hit up leads. And our man, Jai Amos, was non-existent. Like, he did not impact this game. You might as well have had anyone else. Like, Vossi would have had as good of a game as Amos did. Like that was really disappointing for me. Forward line was shocking.
I think it's just another case study of why are we putting Liam Reid in the forward line so much, because we are yet again just chucking a completely new forward mix for Josh Tracy, Jai Amos, and Liam Reid to try and work out. Like, this is the third year or about of Luke Jackson, Josh Tracy, and Jai Amos all playing in the same forward line together. Surely you just keep on going with that continuity. And because when those three were in the forward line on Saturday, there was, not as much movement as there should have been, but you could tell they've been playing together for a little while. And we just completely bombed that up when we put Liam Reid down there. It was really, really odd. Back onto the live wire bit, I want to mention two guys in a positive light who haven't been mentioned a lot by sort of our fan base, and they were live wires at either end of the ground. I thought had really underrated games. I was really happy with what I saw from Brandon Walker. I thought one of his kicks was terrible, and I think we all know the one we're talking about. But apart from that, I thought he dug in really well. It was a very, very tough job to get a hold of a Tyson Stengler or a Graham Myers. They're two of the best at what they do. But I was really happy with Brandon Walker's dash, not just off halfback, but from deep in the back line. I thought he got us out of some really sticky situations. And I thought some of the 1%ers that Bailey Banfield brought, who's a very, very bipolar player amongst our fan base, but I thought in a forward line that lacked any creativity or spark, I thought he brought something that nearly got us back in the game.
What did he do?
Well, weren't you happy with Bailey Banfield? Did it not show at the game?
I didn't see nothing from him.
To be honest, like his running and heart amongst the forward line, like I personally don't think he's good enough for the Dockers, but you had guys like Michael Friedrich who skill-wise is good enough for Fremantle, but he's just not, I'm not going to say not trying, but he's not, pressuring or doing the little 1%ers or fundamentals that you'd expect from a contending team. So yeah, I thought Bailey Banfield, I was happy with, sort of the heart that he showed, which, maybe not enough sometimes, but yeah, I did just want to mention him.
Yeah, Banfield, like, all the Dockers fans like him as a person. Like, he's a great member of our club, don't get me wrong. But it's just the polish. It's just, he doesn't, that's all it is with him. Like, he has the heart, he's a good runner, he's a good athlete. But it's just like in game, like the moments where you have milliseconds to think, and like there was just shots that like went out on the full and stuff, and it's just like, just give me Shea Bolton to do 2 spins out of traffic.
I'm not saying Bailey Banfield keeps Shea Bolton out the team.
Yeah, I know, but that's just like we're past Bailey Banfield. Bailey Banfield is Matt Taberner era. Bailey Banfield was a rookie selection.
I'm not saying Bailey Banfield's in our best 22, mate. I just thought in a time where we needed someone of that sort of mold to step up, I thought he did okay.
You thought Bailey Banfield, who plays in the forward line, didn't kick a goal, didn't get a tackle inside 50 that I can remember.
Mate, I'm just trying to bring what I thought was a positive to light.
He looked like he ran hard.
All right, talk about Brandon Walker. What did you see from Brandon Walker?
Yeah, I like Walker. I think he's matured a lot in the last 12 months. And yeah, we need that transition and that speed from him. Again, it was just skill that let him down a lot on the day. But like, we don't want the ball in the hands of him. Like, in the phase of games where he's under pressure, like, we want to just give it to him and then just let him run and send it inside 50. So I don't know. I liked Walker's game. Nothing really glaringly stood out to me as a bad game. To be honest, like, I don't know what it was with our midfield. Like, obviously we got to give credit to Geelong that there are 2 teams that play in a game of football, and Bailey Smith looked unreal. Max Holmes played really well. Sam de Koning was probably the best ruckman on the ground, which is really frustrating. But I thought, like you said, individually our midfielders had a good game. I feel like skill execution let us down a lot, just like being very fumbly, but Geelong brought good pressure. But I think what let us down most was our forward line and our craft bringing the ball forward at the ground. That's what felt like was lacking the most.
All right, well, we've just had 20 or so minutes of dissecting a 78-point round 1 loss, which we needed. We needed that sort of vent. But now let's move on to next Sunday. We have got a massive game, our homecoming, Sydney at Optus Stadium, 3:10. Make sure you get down there. There'll be a big crowd there. And Sydney are 0-2. We'll discuss this more throughout the week, through the Oppo view and my preview on Wednesday. But Sydney are 0-2. We're 0-1. Both teams are going to be incredibly hungry. The Swans took it up to the Lions, and in fact, they started far better than Brisbane on Saturday, straight after our game. But our lineup needs some changes if we're going to beat that team, because they've still got some talent that would have comprehensively beaten ours on Saturday. What are you saying about team selection?
Team selection. Well, Reid goes out, Banfield goes out, and Heath Chapman, you've got to give that guy a bigger role.
He's in the 22.
Well, not just in the 22.
He's in the 18.
Not even. I just want to see Heath Chapman be spoken about as what is he gonna do to make us win today? I don't see him as a pawn. I see him as a bishop or I don't know, some sort of chess reference. He is a massive player for us. So aside from team selection, just tactical selection, give Heath Chapman a more important role. And yeah, I think Reid goes out. Banfield goes out. And we got to replace Switter as well. So maybe it's a Bolton and Walters in.
I hope Walters is fit. I think Bolton's 99% going to be fit. But Walters, oh God, I really hope he is.
Yeah. What do you think? What do we need to do at selection?
Nathan Fyfe. I thought we moved past this. I think I mentioned it earlier, the defensive midfield role he played against Heaney last year. I think he's going to have to do the exact same thing this Sunday on Isaac Heaney, because he was Brisbane's main threat on Saturday when I was watching that game. He was getting into so much space. He's so explosive, and he was nearly the reason why Sydney won that game. I think Nat Fyfe simply has to come in. He played really well for Peel on the weekend in a pracky, a big win for Peel in that pracky. Racked up 20 possessions or so in still pretty limited game time, building his match fitness back. So yeah, he played really, really well. He has to come into the team for me, just as that bigger body, because Matt Johnson's a big body, but he's never going to play that sort of role. He's just not that sort of player. So yeah, I agree. I think Banfield goes out, Bolton comes in, Reid goes out, Voss comes in, Chapman replaces Warner in the 22. And then you've got to find a spot for Fyfe, and maybe that is Warner who goes. I'm trying to find a spot for Walters. Probably Switkowski. So Walters comes in for Switkowski. Chapman comes in the 22 for Warner, and I think Warner goes out for Fyfe, and then decide the sub from there. Who knows? You can make the argument for maybe getting rid of one of Draper or Cox, not because of how they play, just because we might want to try and get that mix right, because we certainly didn't against Geelong. But yeah, it's certainly a debate to be had. There's going to be, I reckon, at least 4 or 5 changes for the game on Sunday.
Yeah, there has to be. And it's a massive game now. With Sydney going 0-2, their season is well and truly on the line. And it's a massive game for us. First home game. We want to make sure that was just a blip in the radar and that we're not absolute dog shit this year. So yeah, it's a massive game at Optus. So let's hope that we can just leave that Geelong game behind us and move on from it. Because we that's not who we are. We need to rock up and have a big statement win. But look, Collingwood got absolutely pumped by GWS in round 1 away from home. Came back and played a top 4 team from last year in Port Adelaide. Sydney were a top 4 team last year, and they absolutely smoked them. You never know. This season's going to be weird.
I've always been of the opinion, as soon as the fixture came out, that if we can win one of our first 2, we'll be okay. Because our first 8 are so favourable on paper. By the odds, we are currently favourites against the Swans. Pretty close, but we are the favourites. Round 3, we have the Eagles, which, form doesn't go into a derby. But I watched that West Coast Gold Coast game today, and wow, that was a rogue performance from West Coast. Round 4, it's Bulldogs at home. Round 5, at Richmond at the Barossa. Who knows what you're going to get from that. And then it starts to get a little bit tougher. Round 6, Melbourne at the G. Round 7, Adelaide at home. So we've got a few favourable fixtures coming up. Sydney will test us. The Bulldogs will test us. Melbourne will really test us. But I think we've really got to get to work now. If we can beat Sydney, I think we can kick on for the next 10 or so weeks here.
Yeah, well, we got to take it one day at a time. Trust the process, as JL says. But come on, boys. Lift. Jordan Clark. We didn't even speak about Jordan Clark today. He wasn't an impact player on Saturday. I want to see.
He was really good in the first quarter. He was on for a big... probably because the ball was down there for so much, which, not good. We don't really want the ball down there for 90% of the quarter. But I thought Clark had a good start to his game.
I just want to see the boys
rest
play,
of it
man.
Was,
I'm not even saying he had a bad game, but I want to see Jordan Clark running down the wing and fucking kicking
him from 60.
Yeah, I just want to see the boys playing. I want to see them express themselves. So bring back exciting Dockers football, because that was garbage.
To be honest, like our last 2 games that have been like that was also against Geelong late last year, and it wasn't the margin that made the game like that. It was the way they shut down our corridors and made the game so ugly. Like that game against Geelong last year at Optus, late in the season, was such an ugly game of football. I mean, I'd have to re-jog my memory, but the scores, I think both teams' scores were in the 60s or 70s. Like, yeah, the score was 73-62 to Geelong. It was ugly. Paddy Dangerfield got in there, made it a hard game. They closed the corridors. We couldn't move the ball. They know how to shut us down. They've sort of found a little formula. We have to have a plan B, because if Sydney do the same thing against, I'm not calling Dean Cox a bad coach. I think he's very intellectual, but JL's been in the game, the head coaching game, longer than him. We've really got to try and pick apart Sydney's system and try and do something to just give us an advantage. 50k hopefully, Sunday Arvo. Like, we just need everything in our favour. We need to use it for us to win.
Express yourself, lads. Let's wrap it up there, Noah. There'll be a preview out with the True Bloods, which I'm hopefully filming tomorrow night. UCAT will have a Freo Focus preview, and we'll just keep running this up. Thank you to everyone that joined on the fan cams, and let's hope for a Dockers dub this week.
Yeah, forgot to mention the fan cams. Really appreciate everyone who joined. We had a good chat running. We had a few good people who came in, had a yarn, dissected our raw emotions together. So yeah, go join Drew's after the game on Sunday, and hopefully, have a more happy yarn, dissect a win. And just make sure you stay across everything across YouTube, Spotify, and Instagram. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Drews, for joining me. Content will be flowing out this week in the lead up to Sydney on Sunday. Thanks for watching. See you next time.